Tired. That's it. I'm usually super energetic. I am just today has been a long day.
Bro, I feel you.
I
I
am
feel you. Well,
tired.
let's get started. Welcome back, everybody. This is your boy RTL Faith, and we are back with another episode of Kickback Anime Discussions, the chillest anime podcast on the platform. And today we're going to be talking about a very unique topic, very deep topic, and basically we're talking about, does cultural representation matter in anime? And today I got my boy here, special guest, and I'll have another special guest come back later on. And why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are. Tell you what you do.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Wise. I'm a YouTuber. My YouTube channel is Mangavation. I talk about manga, more specifically My Hero Academia. However, I am expanding my variety and shonen series because lately shonen has been a blessing to this world. That's pretty much what I do right now. I'm a YouTuber. I'm over here trying to grind and grow, try to make the best content that I possibly can, and have a good conversation today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And this should be a pretty interesting.
Oh, that is that is my phone.
Oh, that's an interesting little ringtone right there.
Yes, very much.
But overall, this should be pretty interesting, and it's pretty deep topic. Like I said,
Yeah.
sometimes something that I've hit up a few people, and there are, for the most part, some people would say, "Nah, I probably shouldn't join." One dude said, "I shouldn't join because I'm white," and people
Yeah.
people like it.
Nah, that makes sense.
I was like, I'm not mad at you. That makes sense. I'm not
Yeah,
mad at
I
you.
don't think too many people should be mad if you're gonna have a discussion, unless you're being directly disrespectful. Then
Exactly.
that's where it's like, okay. But if you're honest, then hey,
But
you should
yes,
be good.
sometimes people just feel some type of way. But also, I hit up someone else. He's like, "Nah, I probably shouldn't do it because it might hurt his reputation on YouTube because he like reveals a certain opinion or something." So
Come on, man. You can't see. Okay, I can understand it because you don't want to hurt your reputation, but it's you. So if that's who you are, then eventually that side of you is going to come out, whether it's a slip up or something. So I would rather you just be honest with yourself. At least try to have a conversation with other people. Just try to get other people's thoughts and ideas, and maybe you can change yours, or maybe you can develop. I don't know. I just feel like that's a very weird. It's understandable though. I can understand you don't want your reputation to be, but that's you, right? Like, maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I'm tripping.
no, I understand too. Like, he's a cool dude, and
Mhm.
at the end of the day, he's a very cool dude, and he does have interesting opinions. And he's just trying to protect his brand. At the end of the day, you
Yeah,
can't. There's certain things you can't say because you got to protect your brand, and that's something as you grow as a content creator that's very important. So you can't say certain
you-
things, and you want to stay away
that's an
from it.
interesting topic. That's an interesting topic. I feel like you can't say certain things. Of course, yes, of course. However, if it's something that's you, then it'll come out eventually. That's my argument. So I would rather you try to be open with yourself, and if you want to see, get different opinions to grow, that'd be tight. But if you just like negative and I don't know, it's interesting. It's interesting.
I agree. I agree. Well, to get into the meat and potatoes of what's going on, usually we do trending topics, but we're just gonna dive right into it for this one. Um,
Okay.
so basically, when I came up with the idea of this podcast episode, because I remember seeing this thing on Twitter, right? Because
Mm.
Twitter is things get mad on Twitter. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
Twitter.
But I saw this thing. So this one person, if you're not aware, you see a lot of people who like to do their own art about different anime stuff, and
Mhm.
and there's those people who kind of change certain anime characters to fit a certain culture.
Mm.
Prime example, you make a certain character black. There's a lot of that. You
Mhm.
turn Bakugo into some dude, just give him some dreads, give him some earrings, and he look like a
Yeah.
you know
Blackwashing.
blast watching. So we see that quite a bit. Now the thing is,
Mhm.
I did see another person who did the opposite of that, in the sense that he found all the dark skinned characters and turned them all blonde with blue eyes and made them white.
Mm.
And I'm
Mhm.
like, why do you have to do that? But then his point, like, he wasn't being serious about it. He was just doing that to troll the people who get mad about doing blackwashing. Like, he was
Mm.
trying to do a message more so and piss people off more so than like he cares. That's what it seemed like to
Yeah.
me. And I was like,
Yeah.
to be fair, you do have a point. Like people do it for this culture, so why is it not okay
Mhm.
for you to do it for that culture? I see what you're saying. You know that's gonna piss people off, but you're not. You're saying something that's not completely unfair. Like if they can
Yeah.
do it, then you should be able to do it. In all reality,
Yeah.
so and at the end of the day, I was thinking, honestly, does it even matter? Because all these characters are Japanese in the first place or Korean. Like,
Mhm.
they're not white, they're not black. And if they are black, and if they are white, or if they're Mexican or whatever, they'll be shown in the anime. So all these
Mhm.
characters are fit for a different culture entirely. So why don't we just stop messing with their culture? So I'm just like, does it matter? That's when the question
Mhm.
started popping in my head. Does it matter? What do you think? What are you thinking so far?
That's interesting. Um, I guess that's interesting. I guess events that happen because it's important to have these conversations because you do have to differentiate like our idea of race and what it means to us and how other cultures view race and what it means to them
Yeah.
because being an American, right? It's like we have history that's completely different from a lot of other people's history, and we don't, we're still understanding and learning from our own history, so we can't really put too many other cultures into this. However, to answer it, I would probably say I would probably use it. Let me tell you a story before, like I guess to tie this in.
Yeah.
I'm not the type of person that tries to add race into everything. I
Yeah.
only add race into things that matters that no that race matters. Um, this is a medium in which I don't believe race matters, but I'm going to explain it with a story. I'm a YouTuber, right? I started last November, so I'm almost 1 year on YouTube, and I was blessed. And this year, in February or March, it was March actually. It was March after I came home from my brother's house in Texas. I decided I was going to post every day for 30 days. And I had 25 subscribers at that point in time, and I posted every day. And the My Hero Academia Heroes Rising dropped, right?
Yeah.
And I made a video, and it went viral. It had like 100,000 views or whatever, and then I ended up getting my first 1,000 subscribers, right? So like all my success came from March to now. I'm at 8,000, so it's a blessing. I'm loved, right? I decided to make a Discord after I got 200 subscribers, and the very first day I got a message from a young woman on my Discord saying that she appreciates me being a black person making anime content, and I felt uncomfortable when I was said because she was white, and I felt uncomfortable not because she was white, but because I was looked at as not me, but by my skin, and it made me feel uncomfortable because I thought that it was just something that I wanted to do for me rather than something that I wanted to do to represent my culture or, the history that comes from having my skin.
Yeah.
And I say that to say this. Like I said earlier, I try not to put race into things that doesn't matter. And I feel like when you we typically as human beings, or at least Americans, I don't know how many, in the Eastern countries do it too much, but I know European countries, of course, and it's America, right? We tend to put a lot of race. We tend to put race into things that shouldn't matter. We tend to put race into things that should be focused on the content instead of this idea of what it a bigger picture, and it's not really a bigger picture. And when it comes to representation in anime, it's like the content is what we should be focused on more than an idea that we think is supposed to be bigger, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like if you want representation, you can find it. Simple. Like if you desire to have representation, right? You can find it. There are hundreds up to thousands of African American or Asians, or of course Asians, or Hispanic, right? Of or whatever, just mediums and comics in television shows, cartoons. There's hundreds of thousands of different series and characters that you can follow and you can support if you're looking for quote unquote the idea of race or representation, right? Um, but I don't think it's something that we should focus on when it comes to anime because that's a different culture and they're not required as humans to represent something that they don't want to represent because they don't think of it like that. I
Yeah.
mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like I'm pretty sure Horikoshi and or Toriyama didn't go into being a mangaka to say, "Hey, I'm gonna be a mangaka to represent my race of people." It's like, no, they did it because they enjoyed it as children. They enjoyed drawing. Like the content was the thing that reeled them in, and the content was the thing that made them, famous and important to the world, blessing us with their content. It wasn't I have a black person in my series and I have it's just I just that's kind of my stance on it. It's something that should not have race tied to. You should not tie race into mediums that it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. That's my idea, at least for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like when you talk about like the being a content creator and talking about anime, very similar. I started my content and I talk about anime and manga because I
Mhm,
enjoy it.
mhm,
I think it's fun to do that, talk about it, have a discussion about it. And
mm,
I didn't think about, oh, I should do this way because I'm black or because I have this in my nationality. No, I just did it because I felt like it. At the end of the day, that's literally the epitome of it. Now, sure, you could do things with your if you start your content, you want it to be a certain type of content that to represent the culture. There's nothing wrong with it. Like it's just like
mhm,
not something that's mandated. I mean, there's
yeah,
people whose channel is like black guy reacts to this and that. Like he's obviously doing something in relevance to the black culture, which is again
yeah,
fine. That's what he wants to do, and there's a medium for it. There's people who just want to stick to their own culture, so of course they're going to be attracted to that. But when it comes to
mhm,
anime, we all should know that the anime that most people enjoy come from Japan at the end of the day.
mhm,
Like there is technically other anime, we got the webtoons with the South Korea and all that good stuff. And then we got Americans making stuff. We got Avatar, even though people say
mhm.
it's not an anime. Boondocks, even though
It
people say
doesn't
it's not
count.
an anime. Yeah,
It doesn't
so
count.
so people say also Netflix shows. I'm pretty sure Jaden Smith made some anime too. I don't know what it was
Mm,
about, but
mm,
I mean, people could copy the concept and try it, but we all like anime from Japan because not because they're representing the culture, not because they're trying to do a message. That's the thing. A lot of people in America they make content or for like a national wide, but they always are
mhm,
trying to push a agenda, push a
mm,
message. The thing about anime, which I really like, they're not trying to push anything. They're just trying to
mhm,
entertain you with the story that is going on. Like,
mhm,
you're not going to watch My Hero Academia and think, oh, they're trying to tell us, they're trying to push a certain political agenda, or
mm,
they're trying to, talk about a specific event that's really important. Nah, there's certain parody series that do it, but they're just making fun of things. But
yeah,
nah, these anime, like, you watch My Hero, you're just like enjoying the journey of Deku becoming a hero. That's all it is at the end of the day. There's philosophical themes behind it, but the
mhm,
people in Japan, they're making it in their perspective. So these are Japanese people, and they're not blinded by the world. So of course they're gonna have other characters of different colors, like of in their series. Whether it's black,
mhm,
white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. And then they will broadcast that out to everybody, and you can do whatever you want. But no, like at the end of the day, just because you do something to a certain character doesn't mean that it's uh, just because you make a character white or make a character black doesn't mean it's inherently something that's wrong for the other person to do. If you want to do it
mm,
yourself, you can, because
yeah,
that's when it becomes hypocritical because it's not yours in the first place.
yeah,
You feel me?
that
So
makes sense.
yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of those situations, debates, or people getting upset about stuff like that, it gets pretty annoying.
Mhm,
Um, I do respect people who do like make their own. You can make your own manga, like a manga
mhm.
with featuring black characters. I'm sure you've met people on Twitter that are trying to do that. That's perfectly
Yeah.
fine.
I mean, I'm trying. Well, I wouldn't. Again, I'm not trying to do it for the purpose of having black representation. I want to do it because I have a story in mind, and and I want to tell my story to the world. That's the thing. But like you say, it's very hypocritical, and and when you try to push an agenda that isn't something that you can really push. Like it's not something that you can just say, hey, you should represent our people or any people. It should never be that. That should never be an argument at all, ever. If anything, I feel like, again, as I say, you if you're looking for something, you can find it. Like this is 2020. Like people make anything. If you're looking for something, you can find it. If you're looking for a series that has representation, there are, again, hundreds, thousands of series that has black representation, right? Like they're or just in representation in general, but it's so many, and I find it interesting. Originally, I had the mindset of, hey, like, if you want something, make it yourself. But not everybody's talented enough to make it themselves, and that's the
Yeah,
thing about it. Like, so I can't say that anymore. But what I can say is, if you want something, find it. Like, somebody has it. Somebody has what you're looking for. I was watching this video, actually. It was like a couple of days ago, and it was like a 3-minute video on this girl, and it was actually about whitewashing and blackwashing and stuff like that. And this girl, she was telling a story, and it was funny. And I don't know the princesses in Disney. I don't know too many the Disney princesses, but
yeah,
she was saying that a young woman, she made a white princess black, and she took it to her niece, and the niece was all happy and excited. And she said, "Yay, she looks just like me." And then she was like, "Who is she?" So the niece didn't even know the princess's name. The only thing she knew was that the princess had the same kind of, hairstyle and, I guess, skin color. And the thing to take away from that is, well, if the child looks at it like that, you could have created a completely different character, or you could have grabbed a completely different character off of Google that was actually created to be black, and represented by whatever, right, in that way, and you could have showed her that exact same picture, and she would have felt the exact same way. But instead, you decided to take something that was intended to be whatever it was intended to be, and change it so that a narrative can be created from it, and show it to your niece. And now she's, having a different not type of mindset. Now, when you tell her what the name is, and she grows up and she researches and find out that, hey, she was never she was never black to begin with,
yeah,
then how does that kind of goes down into a different effect. So it goes into what you said, like, you can create it, or for me, it's like, you can find it. Like, I can go on Google right now and just put black comic, black anime, black manga. Now, are they as successful as Japanese? No, freak no. Why would they? No, they're not going to be as successful as One Piece, and, like, right
yeah,
now they be, because simply, if you have enough people, don't the difference between One Piece and all these other series, minus the fact that it's an excellent story, is is the people actually watch it. So if people watch the series that they want to support, then, of course, obviously, you have to have content. The content needs to be good. If it's
yeah.
not good, you're not gonna be. But it's just, I feel like people are trying to, like, anyone who argues for representation. Um, I feel a lot of empathy for them, because I feel like, if you're legit arguing for representation, for more representation in a medium in which it is not even required, right? In a culture where they don't, you can't truly just see somebody understand your your life. I find that to be really really like just it's deep. It's very it's way deeper than a lot of people realize, and it's upsetting to me because I feel like we should be better than that by now. We shouldn't, you know what I'm saying? It should never be, hey, amazing mangaka, black representation. Like Rocklock, there's one black guy in the entire series of My Hero Academia. Rocklock,
Yeah,
right? It's like I don't look
and
at
in
Rocklock and say
Mirko,
he's
Mirko, if you
and
consider.
Mirko. If you're gonna say that, I feel like Mirko is Hispanic because her hero moves, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah,
But 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 the idea is like you don't like I don't look at Rocklock and it's like, yo, Rocklock is lit because he's black. It's like, no, like Rocklock has moments. Like
yeah,
Rocklock, like as a backup character, he is a fire behind backup character because he has moments. It's not just him, right? It's other characters as well. You have Manuel. You have other characters like Mount Lady and like they're characters that are like background character. They're second, third tier characters, and they're doing their thing. It's not about representation to me. That's just a personal thing. And I feel like the people who is focused on trying to get representation in anime, like that's the thing. In anime,
yeah.
I feel like I feel I have a lot of empathy because I feel like it comes to from like a deeper mindset of like I want to feel like I'm straight. I want to feel like we are in a position of straightness or love or acceptance in the world. I just don't think that's just how it works.
Yeah, I agree. And something you touched upon, and something I said earlier, that's really important. That if you're creating your own like series or whatever, is that when you create something, people just some most I would say most people, not all people, most people I would say
Mhm,
just want to enjoy the story. And
mhm.
that's really important because like there's people out there, they create something, but they push it in a way that say, oh, this is a black story. It has a black
Yeah,
narrative, it has
yeah,
black themes, it's for black people. And it's
yeah,
like, how are you gonna get it across to every like the
to the
world
world.
if you make it so selective to a
Yeah,
certain group of people? Like, at the end of the day, you can have all the characters be black. That's completely fine. But have
mhm,
a story you're telling that's at least applicable to multiple everybody. Because at the
yeah,
end of the day, everything that the Japanese make, even though it's like Asian culture and whatnot, you at
mhm,
no point are you felt like you're unaccepted from the story you're being told.
yep,
You are you. In fact, the way that I would say the Japanese do it is they make you want to be a part of the culture, which
mhm,
is very important. Like you see them, with all the
literally.
Japanese food, you're like, oh man,
Mhm,
that's great. You see them with the Japanese shops, with all the Japanese clothing. You're like, bro, it would be like that's why I would say a lot of anime fans all want to go to Japan because it
mm,
just seems like enjoyable. But I would say a lot of people are trying to always push something that's not exactly accepting to all groups of people, which kind of misses the point of why you're creating the story in the first place. If you're just creating it to like broadcast a message, then you can't expect that thing to be like all these other stories like One
yeah,
Piece and Naruto. Like One Piece is a story about a pirate's journey. The
yeah,
culture doesn't matter. It's about a
no,
pirate's journey and a bunch of other human themes instead of specific like themes. It's widespreading. No matter what type of person you are, you can connect to something in One Piece or
yeah,
MHA or Naruto, for example,
yeah,
which is how you're supposed to be writing a story in all
mhm.
actuality. And
That's what ideally.
yeah, exactly. Like, and another thing is something that people have to remember.
Mhm,
At the end of the day, these are made at a Japanese person's perspective. And it's kind
mhm,
of interesting that people don't get as upset at like the Japanese for doing this
mhm,
because I don't get upset because I don't care because at the end of the day, like I'm a pretty neutral person. If I can sense you're
Mhm,
doing something outright bad, then I'm gonna call you out for it. But I don't think they're doing anything outright bad. They're just saying things on their perspective. For example, in Ice Shield 21, I read the manga for it. It's a football anime, and everything was cool. But then at the final arc in Ice Shield 21, the way they talk about black people is so interesting because they're
mm,
like saying black people are like godly, gifted athletes in America. That's
mhm,
how they like they jump and they run. They're just a different breed.
mhm,
That's how they describe black people in America when it comes to football. And
mhm.
Kuroko no
Ooh,
Basket, how they portray Americans as douchebags. I mean,
mhm.
that's their
Yeah,
perspective. And
literally.
a really important example is this anime called Drifters is an
Mm,
isekai about, Japanese figureheads, and the way they portray Hitler in Drifters is way more nice than any American would ever portray Hitler ever in existence.
yeah.
So they actually like think of him as a good guy in
Mm,
Drifters, while in America, you hear Hitler, you hear one of the worst human beings that have ever existed.
of course,
So it's all perspective based at the end of the
it
day.
is. I would definitely agree. I feel like to piggyback off of that, or at least not to add on to that, I feel like it kind of goes back into the idea of me being empathetic. I feel like I feel like how do I say, if race isn't the problem, right? Like unless race is the problem, right? Like unless it really is the problem,
Yeah.
then then race should not be. I'm sorry. How do I say it? If race, unless race is the problem, right? In any other medium, race, adding race to it is the problem. If that makes sense, unless it actually is, unless somebody is deliberately making something for race reasons, unless that is the case, right? You shouldn't be speaking on it. Like it should never be something that you should utter out your out of your mouth. As far as now, and again, this is just like what you were saying when you were saying trying to just enjoy the series, because I feel like we kind of take things for granted.
Yeah.
We kind of feel like because we are supporting, then we have just as much power as the person that we're supporting. And that is not true. We do have power, of course, whatever, but nonetheless, like that still isn't the case.
Yeah.
For example, I feel like we put race into so many different things. And as African, as you know, as an African American, I feel like I definitely see it. One of the things that I found really interesting is like the Dragon Ball situation and black representation in Dragon Ball.
Right.
A lot of people pick up a lot of people in the African American community pick up and this is where the empathy comes, and this hopefully this can I can explain it to where you can it'd be way easier for everyone to understand why I would say I'm empathetic to this cause, or just it's because when you have a series like Dragon Ball and you look at how like the people how black people generally take the representation in Dragon Ball, it's completely incorrect. They force representation on themselves in Dragon Ball. They would say, "Well, what? Piccolo,
Yeah.
right? Like Namekians are black." It's like, no, Namekians aren't black. They're Namekians. Mr. Popo. Mr. Popo got to be no. Mr. Popo isn't black. He's a deity. Like, and you know why? Because they have actual black people in in the series.
Yeah.
So when you have actual literal black people in the series, in the earth, on earth as a human, and us as or as a black community, right, in America at least, are trying to identify with things that aren't that, that's kind of where you kind of you get this crossroad of like just ideas or thoughts into this matter. It's like you have black people in this world, of this fictional world,
Yeah.
but yet you want to claim a completely different race, a completely different species of human. I'm sorry, of humanoid creatures. You want to claim a Namekian because Piccolo is cool. No one wants to claim Pope Mr. Popo. People think that he's racist, so because that he's a racist representation. When I don't, I would not agree with that. He's not a human. Like if you, that's the thing about it, it's weird to me. It's like if you have humans that are black, like specifically, like they're there, then it's weird. Same thing with One Piece. A lot of people, well, fishermen are black. It's like, well, no, Aokiji is a black guy. Like, it's so many black guys.
Yeah,
It's black people in it's Usopp. I believe Usopp is black. Or at least Yasop. I don't know. I'm not too heavy into to One Piece. As far I've read it, but I'm not like one of these super scholars. So I don't know if we ever seen Usopp's mom, but I know Yasop is black.
yeah,
Like like, Aokiji's black. Like, the Fishmans are Fishmans. Like,
yeah,
they're a complete different species of humans, but yet, as a community, we try to say, "Well, no, we black people, the Fishmans are black people." It's like, no, there are black people in the One Piece world. Why not just look at the representation? Oh, it's because, it's because the significance. It's because the numbers. Ah, you
yeah,
can relate. You can relate because you have a representation of an event that's something similar to yours or to your history, which is slavery. But that's not just the African Americans, although it is significant. It's not just an African American thing.
yeah. I was actually gonna say that as well because like that's what people like to do. They kind of compare things that happen in their history to kind of make a similarity. But people need to remember in Japan there was slavery and
Yeah.
a lot of slavery too. They have a bunch of crappy stuff that happened to the Japanese people that equal. I don't know if it's worse or better. I'm not going to say that, but at the very least, equal to things that happen in America. Like they have
Mm.
their own history. They have their own brutal history, and you got to remember that they're saying everything from things they know of. Now, I'm not saying they can't have inspiration from other events that happen in the world, but for the most part, everything is based on Japanese perspective.
And it doesn't even matter if it is, because at the end of the day, one, this is a fictional story. And two, it shouldn't matter. Like, if race is not intended by the creator of the series, then it should not be forced by the supporters of the series.
Yeah.
That's just the most simple. That's the most simple thing. And I would love if somebody were to have a different idea. I would talk to them to life to life to try to get an understanding. It's like, well, why do you feel like you need representation from something that isn't trying to show any form of representation from anything? They have a story in mind. They want to tell the story, and that is it. They're white, they're Hispanic, they're Asian, they're black, they're whatever, and they obviously, if you are you and you're more typically you are more accustomed to creating characters that are more like you than others, right? So I mean, if you're Asian, that's why their entire, like all their drawing styles are all similar. They've gone through periods. If you look at the 80s, how they how mangas were drawn, all of them drew the same, and then you had the one or two outsiders that kind of was unique, right? And then now you have the same thing. Like, now you have series that are drawing. They're all generally the same as far as the dynamics of how things are. It's not like a whatever, and they're all, not all, majority of them are the Japanese creators that we follow. They have similar styles, right? Or similar elements in their styles. And same thing with African American, comic creators, and white American comic creators. Right, their styles. If you look at comics, their styles as a culture is similar. So it's like if you want to create something, sure, more than likely it's going to be something. It's going to be something that revolves around your culture, something that you've grown, or you've seen. You see a lot of African Americans. You more than likely are going to make a series. If you're going to make a comic book, you're going to more likely make a series where African Americans are more shown. There's nothing wrong with that. It's same. It's nothing. It's same thing with whites. It's like, it's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's your population. If you never seen anything else, then how will you be able to give a different perspective unless you're just gonna just tell a story where just going from a different point of view. Nothing wrong with it. Just do your thing. In my opinion, again, maybe I'm definitely dead wrong, but I'm just like, I would never understand to me wh- why it should matter because I feel like race only matters when race matters.
Yeah, I completely
Like,
understand that for sure. Um, bro, is that my boy Jet? Is he here?
Yes, sir. I was gonna try to jump in randomly talking, but what you were talking about how it really depends on where like the comes from. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's where like the origin like Image Comic like Static, Icon, like they were all made by like the same you know my bad. They're all made by like the same company. Like that company usually made like Black Pacific
mm,
comics, and it was like
mm,
until they're bought up by like DC, and but that's besides
mm.
the point. It's just that usually people talk about where usually make stories about where they like usually came from or like how they grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, culture is always going to be a part of what something you create, but when you make
Hmm.
it like the sole purpose of your creation is to only represent that culture, is when I think it becomes a problem. Like you're saying, because I don't feel like at any point some of the more popular franchises, whether you can even bring in comic books or anime or uh, cartoons, whatnot, at the end of the day, they became popular is not because they're trying to push like a specific culture in front of you, but they're trying to tell a story that entices people in general.
And generally, that kind of pulls people to kind of follow into the culture if you even do that. So a series that is perfect for that is like Vagabond. Like although Vagabond is heavily in Japanese culture, I don't think the intent was to force Japanese culture down somebody's throat. It was like the story of Masashi Miyamoto, right? Like like the idea and the entirety of that, which it falls still in it. I just find it really interesting if somebody were to say, well, yes, black representation is needed. It's the word needed. Wanted, sure, I can understand if you want some form of representation, but you can find it. Like it's not hard. Like there are people who are actively creating series or they're actively serializing series where African Americans or where Hispanic Americans or Hispanics in general or Asians and or of course Asians, but of like but what I'm talking about. Like
Yeah,
there are there are people who create series that has every culture there every almost every culture is represented in a series some way shape or form.
yeah, for sure. And
So if you want something, you can find it.
yeah,
I'll
exactly.
say the
To me,
my bad,
no,
my
no,
bad,
go
but
ahead.
I'll say the best like form of representation is when it's not forced. Like
Yeah,
look at Bleach. Like they had like
yeah.
so many like
Yeah,
different types of like ethnicities and stuff, and it wasn't forced. Like it didn't like they didn't like push like, oh look, we have like a black person, a Mexican. No, they just like they're there, and it's not like you know, uh, it's not like they deserve to be like uh better, they deserve more attention than like other people just because of their ethnicity. No, they're there, they're regular people,
Mhm.
and that's how like we want it. Like I feel like when people want representation, they want someone there that represents them, but they don't want like to be put on a pedestal just because they're different. I mean, if you I'm not sure if you guys keep up with comics, but if you look like a little while back, there was two characters introduced within comics called like Snowflake and I forgot the
Oh,
names, but
yes.
yeah, like
Space.
yeah, Safe Space, like they were like meant to represent like uh well, I forgot exactly what they were supposed to represent, but it was supposed to represent like LGBTQ, and
Yeah,
like I have no problem with it, but I think the problem with it was is that
it
they
was
tried
forced.
yeah, they tried to force it. I
Yeah.
mean, if you look at like one of my favorite characters in Marvel is Iceman, and he's gay,
Mm,
and it's not like he's not put on a pedestal just because he's gay. He's just a good character. Like
mhm.
I don't think just because if you're different, you should be put on a pedestal. I think that's the reason with representation is just because they're not like it's not forced. They're
Yeah,
here. They want to be recognized, like just like
exactly.
everyone else.
Exactly. I saw this series. It's this black guy. Don't know. I think I used to be. I'm not on Instagram as actively anymore, but I used to be on Instagram like last year, and he was making a series. I think his name is Anime Bay or something like that. He was making a series, and it was only black characters, black. It was apparently it's the first black, all black everything. And I don't have a problem with that because again, what I'm saying, if you're willing to create something, then I feel like that's phenomenal. If you're creative enough and you can make something that's successful, hey, do your thing. But where I kind of it upsets me genuinely when that's like the prerogative. And it's you can do your thing, and if it's a good series, now check it out. Of course, right? I kind of focus more on content, but it's kind of like what I said earlier. Like I even the other day, like last week, I even have the comment still on under my video, just like last week. A black dude was like, "Yo, like it's so tight to have another brother talking about anime," and it's like that is such a weird thing because I don't do what I do. I didn't start my channel last November to say, you know what, blackness. Like I didn't do that. I'm black. I never did that. It was weird, right? It's weird for me, and it's weird for me to hear it from people because I kind of I would rather you view me as something that I can control rather than something that I can't. And if you view me as something that I can't control, then I'm not a human, right? Like I can't be I can't be a human, right? Oh, that was an anime moment right there. Ooh, uh, but but for real, like if you view me as something that I can't control, which is my skin color, like then I feel like then there's no such thing as value in the world, right? Like I can't bring value to you. I can't bring happiness or I can't make you smile, with my content. Right. And typically, the emotions when people are like so invested and they want to subscribe to you, they want to support you, right. And go through the journey with you as a content creator. And this kind of ties into the manga as well, obviously. But like when somebody wants to, we have like One Piece, One Piece is the greatest manga, it's the greatest selling manga of all time for a reason. It wasn't because he focused on one thing. It was like everything, like you said, everything, everyone was welcome, and everyone felt like they were welcome. It
Yeah.
wasn't about it wasn't even everyone felt like they were represented. It was just like we can understand these situations. Luffy is a fantastic character, and these villains they have fantastic themes, right? Like these fights, fantastic themes. These arcs, amazing, and they have stories in them that makes us say, "Oh, I can get behind that. That may okay, all right, I like it." What the freak is a One Piece? All these fights, it's amazing, and it's because of that. It's not because of anything other than that. However, it is 7:05, and I have to leave because I have a mentorship program, a
Yeah,
mentorship
I
meeting.
completely understand, bro. You came here, talked your talk, and now you gotta do some business. I feel you, bro. I feel you.
It was it was a good talk. We should definitely do this some more.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Um, but Jet,
Okay.
just to tell you
Yes,
about,
sir.
just to tell you about something, me and Manga Beishu were talking about. I brought up an example that kind of brought about the idea, and this time to kind of share your thoughts about it. Because we kind of been talking about it, but to kind of give you the specific on why the idea was brought is like I'm sure we obviously how anti Twitter is, it'd be kind of crazy. But I was on I scroll through sometimes, and obviously we're aware of those people who like to take anime characters and then blackwash them, make them black,
No.
give them dark skin, afros, dreads, stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I never really minded it at all. But then there's this one person who was doing something that was very controversial on Andy Twitter, and they were making all characters who had dark skin white, and they were giving them blue eyes and blonde hair. and I'm like, why are you doing this? I was kind of like, this is going to be controversial, and I kind of checked out the guy's page, and I know people that were also like not on his side, but kind of understood what he was doing, and basically all they were doing is they were trolling, but also trying to send a message that if you could do that with you know characters, why can't I? Like, what makes me different? And I'm out here thinking like, at the end of the day, all of this shouldn't really matter because they're not black and they're not white. They're Asian, and if they are
Yeah.
black, white, or whatever, then they're that culture. Well, you're just changing all the characters to a specific culture. I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm sure these mangaka, the people who made these series, didn't care enough about this, and they were just trying to write a story. So
Yeah.
that's why I brought up the question: does cultural representation matter in anime?
All right. Well, like since we're on that topic, I have a few things to say about that little whole thing. First of all, with me, I find it kind of cringe, but like, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're like, just race swapping. I mean, it's alright. I personally wouldn't do it, but like, if you're doing it, it's alright. As long I usually don't mind it if they add a little bit of flair to it. Like if they're just not simply just changing the skin color, that's lazy. And then like if you change the hair a little bit, the facial a little bit, it's alright because you're adding a little flair to it. But like as long as you're not saying like this version of the character is better. Like if you're making like that dude you were talking about that was changing like black characters to white ones. Like I wouldn't have minded at first, but then I saw like his tweets. They were saying like, oh, like I saw the one in Miracle, like, oh, I just made Miracle like cuter. I made her better. So it's kind of like disrespecting like the people like her original design. Like, oh, she didn't look good when she was black, so like she looks better white. It kind
Yeah,
of like disrespectful part, and it's like I don't care if you do it. It's you, as long as you're having fun with it. As long as you change it up a little bit, like make it like uniqueness to it, but don't say like that's better. You know, it's
yeah,
like just completely disregarding like who that character like was before. It's like, oh, they look better simply like what he was doing. He was just simply just changing the colors. He wasn't adding really anything. He's like, oh, she's so much better. It's basically just sending out the message like, yeah, like this character's better white than black, and like that was just like really disrespectful.
yeah,
And then when you were talking about just changing how like a character's ethnicity. I usually have this talk with like one of my buddies and like a Discord. He's like, oh, like why did they change like Nick Fury in the MCU from white to black? He was white in the comics and now he's black. Well, there's a reason for that. I'm not sure if you ever heard of the Ultimate comics. It's basically like a separate canon universe of Marvel comics, and in that universe, Nick Fury was based off Samuel L. Jackson, so that's why they casted Samuel L. Jackson in the movies, just because his that comic version of Samuel Jackson based off Samuel L. Jackson. It's really interesting. You gotta look into it. But like when I think about like you know race swapping for like movies and stuff, like comic movies or gender swapping, uh I mean I don't know, it's like it's weird. Like I I will find it weird if their original characters ethnicity played a part to who they were. So the reason the example I like to use is Black Panther. Having a white Black Panther would be extremely weird just because the role of Black Panther is strictly within Wakanda, and Wakanda only the people there are there, and that's like an African American country. And then furthermore, Black Panther, like the role of Black Panther, you're the king. The king is based upon the bloodline, and usually a fully fledged white person would not be within the bloodline. So that's why it'd be weird to have like a white Black Panther, just because it wouldn't make much sense. So and when people say like, oh, like stop changing white characters into black ones, well, as long as it really doesn't like, as long as that character's like ethnicity isn't like who they are, and I really don't see a problem with it. Like you can even like change like I don't know, like Falcon. If you made him white, I wouldn't be too mad. But like I feel like this is off topic, so I'd have to
No,
voice my opinion on that.
I completely agree. Honestly, that's a good point because when we were talking about the idea that a lot of the more successful series are successful, especially in anime, because they focus on the story instead of the culture. Trying to
Hmm.
push they focus on the story instead of trying to push a specific agenda, push a specific like ideal, that to make them think a certain way. No, they're just writing a story, an enjoyable story, trying to send a message to the people and to everybody as a person. Um, but that doesn't mean that they don't have characters in their story that do represent a culture to, flow the narrative, because culture, you could have culture in your story, of course, because you're not blinded. There's a bunch of different cultures in the world. You can't just be blinded about different cultures, especially if you make a grounded series that's based on human experience. So like if you make a character like you said, like Black Panther, or in Bleach, Chad, the way with Chad, like he did a lot of things based on Hispanic values, so he couldn't be anything but Hispanic at the end of the day, and he did that for a reason. For the Tite Kubo did that for a reason, because he wanted this character to follow this narrative. He's not doing this to push the Hispanic culture in front of everybody's faces. No, he still he appreciates the culture and thought it made a made a good character out of it. So
Yeah.
I do think you that is a very important point as well. That when it comes down to it, culture, even though what I'm saying is culture doesn't matter in anime, in the sense that you can't like it's not what it's about. Doesn't mean that culture's not in anime. At the end of the day, it's still part of it.
Yeah. It's like it's still there. Like I'll still say like Bleach has probably the best like representation of like all anime, just because like it just feels like a real world. And then I'll probably say second, probably just because it's probably my fanboyish, probably My Hero. Black Clover is also up there.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Just because like I don't know, My Hero is just based upon like a real world. There's all different types of people. I guess mutants, like My Hero is supposed to like represent like black people, but like that's besides the point. But like with Bleach is like those characters like they're represented there. It feels like a real world. Like you walk down the street, you see blacks, whites, Mexicans, you see all types of people. It doesn't just feel like it doesn't feel like oh no. It doesn't feel like there's just like one specific type of people, you know? Like
Yeah, I agree, and I think when it comes down to it, there are certain things in the world that are universal to every type of person, every type of culture, and that's why it's easy to connect to. And although it's a bad thing, oppression is a universal thing. Every culture has experienced it. Every country, the rising into power, has either oppressed someone or been impressed by someone. Oppression is a like universal thing that everybody should understand. So that's why
yeah.
it makes sense that black people would be able to relate to when oppression happens. But it doesn't mean that the mangaka is writing the story because it's about black oppression. No, it's about all oppression. All oppression is bad,
Yeah.
not just black oppression. So I feel like sometimes people get misconstrued thinking that the series is about a specific thing and try to curtail that series to their specific agenda. And when they do that, they create an atmosphere that's just like not that doesn't exist, in my opinion. And that's when things get messy. That's when it gets toxic, and all these arguments about characters who in all reality they're all Japanese, they're all Asian for the most part. It's just like useless debates, useless arguments that shouldn't be like you. I'm not saying debating is bad. Obviously, you can debate about the plot, you can debate about the characters, you can debate about the themes of the story. But when you're debating about stuff that legit doesn't matter, like oh, we should have more black representation or whatever, whatever in an anime, I was like, you're not the one who created the anime in the first place. It's their culture, not your culture. So you got if you want something like that, like Manga Vision said earlier, there are stories in the world that are specific for black culture. There are stories in the world like that, or you can create your own story. No one's stopping you.
Yeah. Like what you're saying is just that like when they wake up. every day. They go outside. They see, mainly Japanese people. So that's what they're gonna write about. Like on occasion, they'll see like the occasional like black person, but that's like one out of what 1,000. Most of the
Yeah.
time, they're gonna see Japanese people. But if you look at like American stuff, like American comics, like American TV shows, it's a lot more diverse. Just because you wake up, you go outside, you see a lot more black people, see white people, see all different types of people. But it's basically it's based on like where you live, like where you what I was saying earlier about Image Comics, people who made like Icon and Static, when they woke up every day and they went outside, they mainly saw black people, and that's like who they wanted to represent. Just because it's not they just wanted to represent them, but that's who they woke up every day and saw when they walk outside.
I feel like something happened with my man Jet there. But y'all get his message, right? You good? You good now, bro?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what happened?
You kind of cut out for a little bit.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. You're good. But I think for the most part, everybody understands like those people wrote about what is, what they grew up learning about, what they grew up surrounded by. So,
Yeah,
like, we're not saying that all works of fiction can't have cultural representation matter to them, but we're just saying in anime, it the anime we enjoy typically is from Japan. It's not from America. It's typically from Japan. And then you have itsy bitsy like things that are like anime in America and things that are like anime from South Korea or China or whatever. But typically, we all enjoy Japanese anime. It's their decision of how they make their stories. It's their culture when it comes to them making their stories. And they made a lot of anime fans because of how they do things, and they did things in a way to focus on the storytelling and focus on getting humans involved into the message being brought about. That's why my favorite characters in like anime and manga, like my top two, are Lelouch and Eren. What are they doing? They're dealing with oppression to all oppression to people in general, and Lelouch same thing. Like these are these two characters you can connect on a personal level from your culture, your history. I'm guarantee it. And but the way they're doing things is so interesting and so elaborate, and the story is being told so well that the people that they're trying to defend are specific to them and their own people in their own universe. It has nothing to do with anything else. But it's very entertaining and very good writing as well. So, but Jet, you got any final remarks? Anything else you want to say about this topic?
I mean, not really. We've pretty much hit everything on the head.
All right, sounds good. Well, this is just about an hour. This is another episode of Kickback Anime Discussions. A really good discussion about whether anime or whether cultural representation matters in anime. And for me personally, I'm gonna say no. That is my consensus. I think manga would say the same thing. No, it doesn't matter. What do you think, Jet? What's your final consensus answer?
Um, I'll say I'll say it matters as long as it's done right. As long as it's not forced, as long as it seems natural to the world. Like it's cool. It's good to see like someone like you in the series. But like at the end of the day, is that really gonna deter you from watching like a series?
Yeah, I agree to
Like
that.
sorry, my bad for interrupting, but
No,
like
you're good.
I like if Miracle and Rocklock didn't exist in My Hero, I'd still watch it.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Like, yeah, like you said, if it's natural, that's when it matters. You know, they're expressing their culture, but not forcing it down your throat. I think someone, manga said something, a very good statement about it earlier. Probably gonna clip that statement because it was pretty damn good. But yeah, like there's this character in Fire Force who looks pretty badass, and obviously he's black. He
Oh,
got dreads and everything, bro. He looks badass as hell. So can't wait to catch up with Fire Force and see what he got on, of course. And my favorite female character is Yodoichi. We already know. So she's the greatest. She's the goat, no question.
yes, sir.
But
Behind her.
Yes, sir. Oh, no, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. He tried to slip that in when I wasn't paying attention. Okay. But this has been Kickback Anime Discussions. We hope you guys enjoyed. We'll be back next Sunday. Did I figure out what we were talking about? I feel like I had an idea, so you'll just have to find out next Sunday. Probably not going to be discussion this time. Probably going to be more of a debate about something. I don't know what yet, but about something. So hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, this is Kickback Anime Discussions. Make sure you check out my boy Jet. Oh, Jet, you never got to introduce like who you are.
My name's Jet, and I am a certified G and a bona fide stud, and you cannot teach that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So make sure you show some love to everybody here. This has been Kickback Anime Discussions. We'll see you next Sunday.